Hello, my name is Wilberto Torres, owner of Packbrain and the host of Today in Packaging podcast. On this episode, we are going to be talking about why packaging is important for e-commerce. My guest, Erin Ward from Spark Packaging, will be talking about the importance and the impact of e-commerce for all the industry. I hope that you enjoy this excited podcast. Hello, Erin. Welcome to Today in Packaging podcast. I'm glad to have you here today. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks, Roberto. It's a pleasure to talk about packaging. I'm a packaging geek through and through. So I'm ready to talk about it. Let's go.
Packaging geek. Nice. I like that term. Hey, Erin, before to start to talk about e-commerce packaging, we have a lot of nice topic that we are going to be talking today. Tell me a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, I've been in packaging for about 25 to 30 years. I tend to lose a few years here and there because I get older. But I've sold packaging all over the U.S. as well as from offshore suppliers. So I have a wide experience in terms of the types of packaging I've sold and be familiar with. Gives me a good insight into what's going on today. Right now, I work for the Spark Packaging Lab, where we created a space where we actually do package testing for package development. Is also we make prototypes. We also source. We do some other things as well that Spark does worldwide. So we work with a wide variety of customers from large to small. From Microsoft is might be the biggest to the mom and pop guy down the road. So nobody's out of the window.
Nice, nice. And you have a lot of experience in the packaging world. You have a lot of experience also in the e-commerce packaging, and that is why we are going to
Sure.
be talking you and me today about that specific topic. Okay.
Sure.
So, Erin, let's start with the first topic that we are going to talk, which is two ways to look at the e-commerce economy. Okay, we are going to divide this in two aspects. The first one is the fulfillment center. Let's talk about that one.
Oh, sure. That's how we look at it. Fulfillment centers, you think of the fulfillment center as the experience as your Amazon, Walmart,
Mhm.
and Target brands that kind of brought that to the forefront. I look at that because they kind of ship in their own branded box versus, a direct to consumer box, which is, custom printed. But the what we have on in Amazon and Target and those guys, you have lots of choices. You're buying stuff that you want from your home. So, but what has changed for the consumer over the last couple of years is there's increase in choices, and there. And what we've seen is that there was a reduction in corrugated boxes being used at the time. So,
Yeah. So, Erin, fulfillment center.
sure.
You see that there is a lot of variation in the corrugate. There is a lot of variation in the boxes dimension, all those kind of stuff. With this new era about Amazon, Walmart trying to compete each other, for the
Yep.
e-commerce aspect. How you see what is the big difference before the pandemic and after the pandemic, based on your experience currently in your business that you are seeing in the fulfillment center?
Oh, well, if you go back to before pandemic, Walmart and Target were kind of chasing Amazon because they were taking a large percentage of that. And then with the pandemic, we're all staying home, right? And we're shopping online. We're buying our groceries and our cosmetics and our whatever from our laptops or our phones versus actually going to the stores. So um, obviously, what's happened is that they caught up pretty quickly in terms of Walmart and Target maybe taking some share away from Amazon because it's almost unsustainable how they've gotten so big that these other people are going to take, the other companies are going to take market share from them.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. So due to this high volume now, right, and demand that is
Sure.
creating after the pandemic in the
Sure.
fulfillment center, inclusive, Walmart is closing some store and including some location of Sam's to try to put it as a fulfillment center, right, to
Right.
compete with Amazon as a warehouse. Um, looks like based on information that we share, before being in this podcast, you are starting to see a reduction on the board, in the boxes.
Yeah, well, yeah. What you've seen is that uh, all these well, especially for Amazon, they've gone away from shipping in corrugated boxes, or reduction in corrugated boxes. There are a couple factors that go into play there, but and they're going to more of the bag, shipping more stuff in bags. Like I get, for me, I get my coffee in bags, my cat food and all that kind of stuff in bags versus boxes in the past. So what's happened that Amazon has really driven up the price of corrugated pricing in the last couple of years just because the demand is so much there. So they're taking all the corrugated from all these big major players in the US and really driving the pricing really high, and kind of it's impacting all the other corrugated demand for like whatever other shipping containers where they can't get it. So the rumor, I don't know if we want to get into it now, but the rumor, I had a conversation with a very prominent person in the paper industry where the rumor is that some of these major companies are suppliers are cutting off Amazon because they're just taking up too much volume in their plants. um, Obviously the Amazon drives the price down because they buy so much volume. It makes more sense for these big players that, run their plants 100% of the time. They want the smaller types of runs where they can up the prices a little more to make it more economical. So versus losing money, they're going to try to make money. But anyway,
So,
it is what it
so
is. It's we're in that, corrugated pricing's gone up what 15-20% in the last year, and it just there's no end in sight. There's another price increase coming up. So that's why you see the switch to bags from Amazon, because the bags you can put 100 bags in a box versus the boxes where it's stack up. You have to put pallets of them next to the people that supplying the boxes. So anyway,
so interesting. We can talk about that rumor now. So Amazon obviously is getting a lot of demand after the pandemic, a lot more.
sure,
So the corrugated company are starting to say, hey, I can't supply you anymore because if not, my fully operation will be just dedicated to you. I
yep,
want to have other type of
exactly,
business, different prices that I can share because you asked a lot of product and I need to sell you, with a low price. Other company, low volume, I can increase my price. I can have more gain as a company. This
sure,
is this is this is really interesting to hear. So that is why you understand, and you mentioned a little bit, but let's go a little bit more deep on this one. That is why you understand that the future for this big company will be more in recycling, recycled bags, paper bag, all those kind of
yep.
stuff, rather than corrugate.
Yeah, well, you're still going to see corrugated, but yeah, they're going to try to make a switch into bags. That's what we've seen at the lab, where we're getting more and more demand for to make a 10-point paper bag, 10-point paper, kind of like a folding carton type box in a bag form, so they can that's for non-fragile products, that can be shipped online. That's like a 6x4 bag. I have a picture here I can send you. You can take a look at it, but we've seen that. We've also seen the fact that I guess we can go far further. Is that what we've seen also is that the transit system is killing uh, more fragile items in the transit system. In fact, they're not killing it, but they're just
Yeah.
a lot of breakage, a lot of returns. So we've seen brands that want to increase the board strength, from a 32 ECT standard to like a 44 ECT. They want to make sure they have the strength there, adding some paper inserts to make sure the product doesn't fail. So they'd rather go beyond the fact of what's there. Maybe increase the price a little bit, but they don't want returns. They don't want their product to fail. So, which I think is very interesting.
Okay, so you mentioned something interesting, and I want to put it really clear, to the people that are starting also in the
Sure,
packaging world. Um, ECT is edge crush test. Okay,
sure.
this is basically to the strength of the stacking of the carton.
Yep,
you know so this is really important to mention so people can understand. So basically, what you are seeing is that now, for example, you have a 32 ECT, they're asking to increase to 44 ECT, right? This is what you're
Yep.
saying.
Yep.
Okay, good. So something that, based on my experience, I want to get your perspective. When you are in the production site, you create pallets,
Sure.
right? And you stack product around, but you control the pallet pattern. You have control of the way that will go over each cases, right?
Right.
All those kind of stuff. But when you go to send those to the distribution center, and those go to the e-commerce, if you see those pallet patterns are totally different.
Oh, yeah.
In the distribution center, you have one case from this product, you have another one over, and if you don't have control of the way, you need to be sure that you design something that can be accurate for a multiple of variation of
Yep.
weight, right?
Yep.
So basically, this is why you're starting to see this in the e-commerce now.
Yep. Yep. A
Okay.
lot of that going on. And in fact, we had a major company come in the other day that, a standard, we do ISTA package testing and Amazon testing here in the facility. And we do some standard drop tests, right? From our
Mm-hmm.
drop test machine. And the standard is 24 inches, right? 24 inches, you do 7, 8, 9 tests, different drops out of box, right? So we had a customer come in and said, no, we want our last test to be 48 inches, which is twice the amount. So because they said our product is just getting returned like crazy in these darn uh, being shipped on Amazon or FedEx or UPS. So they want a stronger box, but obviously their product failed at 48 inches. And so we had to, they went back to the drawing board and we're redesigning the box right now to make sure it's stronger. But we're seeing more and more of that. And I thought that's alarming to me that the transit system has to do a better job. But packaging can do a better job too. You can increase your cost incrementally, not kill it. You can redesign the box to make sure, as you know, to make sure your product is safe.
Yeah. So exactly, because you need to take consideration about how much money you are losing when you have failure during the shipping process and
Sure.
arrive to the store versus how much will cost me per unit, right? Depending on the volume that I produce, increase this a little bit more, right? So what about also with the paper bag? The paper bag are increasing the strength, the thickness or not?
Like I said before, the paper bags are more for the non-breakable items. Maybe
Mhm.
for cosmetics or plastic bottles that are shipped. Vitamins or something like that. That's what we see in those boxes. The 43 CTs are more for the stronger board shirts are more for like the durables, consumer electronics, uh, dishware, glassware. I guess in the same category, but in those areas, anything that's very breakable. We do a lot of we're doing some wine box designs, so those are over designed as well. So that's where we're seeing that.
Okay, so basically the e-commerce impact in the fulfillment center is a little bit more asking to have higher drop height, right?
Yes.
They are increasing the ECT, right?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
they can try to have more strength and compete with that variation in the pallet pattern on all the distribution
Oh yeah.
center,
Sure.
right,
Yeah.
during the shipping process,
Yep.
right? And you are seeing that people are looking more bag, could be recycled bag or paper bag for no breakable products. Those are
Yep.
the trending right now that based on your current experience after the pandemic and during the pandemic you have been seeing, right?
Yep. Exactly. And I don't know if you saw that, and this is on my list, but the new incentives by Amazon is SIOC packaging, right? Ships in known containers. So that means it gets rid of the corrugated shipper that Amazon puts it in, and it's actually using your box, whatever that is. Uh, and you make that box strong so it doesn't have to be repacked, and you save money that way in terms of the overboxing fees and the chargeback fees and the FBA fees. You get an incentive. So that there's a big incentive going on for Amazon right now, and we're really involved with that in terms of helping people out in their SIOC packaging uh, that can actually save them money over the long term.
Yes, exactly. So that is the important part, right? But this,
Yep.
this
Very
will
important.
be like a learning experience, and that is why you guys
Sure.
help them to get that experience in front of them, right?
Yep. Sure. Exactly. Yep. Learning curve.
Yeah, learning curve. This is the future, everybody. So this is the future. Everybody now want to have everything delivered to your house, and the
Not
manufacturer,
it's not going away, right? It's
no,
it makes it easier and easier. My wife always says, if I could buy everything online, I would never leave the house. So,
yeah, I can have more time to watch TV, sports,
oh,
or
there you
do
go.
stuff in
Yeah,
the house, read, sleep, do
yeah,
exercise,
more football.
watch football, of course. And that is why e-commerce packaging is really important. And we are talking about this now because in the future we are going to have another one, and everything that we just talk here will be double.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we already talk about the fulfillment center, about the e-commerce economy. Let's go to the other part, which is this one is a little bit more about the branding and the marketing.
Yep.
Let's talk about the unboxing experience. Erin, this is something really famous in social media. If you go to YouTube and you type unboxing experience, tons of video, million of views about this. So
Oh
how,
yeah.
based on your opinion, on your experience that you're having right now after during the pandemic and after the pandemic, the increase of unboxing experience.
Well, that's what that's what every customer wants, right? They want that. They want that experience, but they don't want to pay for it, right? That's one of those. It's a fine line. So if you look at like Stitch Fix or Peloton, the Honest Company, Chewy, those are the major brands out there that ring a bell. Those are all disruptors, right? In the market where they ship directly to the consumer, use their box for branding, and then they use the unboxing experience as a kickback, right? They might put some coupons in there to help, maybe interactive, a QR code. You've seen some wine companies that have that AI feature in terms of uh, AR feature. Sorry, that artificial. When you look at the label, it can show a different uh, face in the background. Sorry, I messed that up. But
No, no.
anyway, yeah, I'm
So,
sorry.
Erin, unboxing. When if a customer goes to you and say, "Hey, I want to have a design for my product,"
Right.
but in addition to the design, the corrugate could be a bag or whatever is the design that they ask. What about asking about labels that create that different experience to the consumer about their product? What about what difficult is to add to this package design, add lights, sound, something different that they can actually enjoy? How difficult is?
Well, it's only difficult in the supply chain how to manufacture it, right? I mean,
Mhm.
people always want these things, but it's hard to get it done to execution. That it's pretty easy in the U.S. Manufacturers to have things, with a spot UV or a gold foil that adds some pizzazz to your package for the four color CYMK versus the adding those different values. I mean, it's
Mhm.
been shown, there's some studies that are out there that show that the brighter the package on a shelf, the more it sells. The unboxing experience is more of a opening the box, how it opens, and maybe if you have let's say a fun box, you open something like this up and it has some wording on the inside. Those are pretty cool, right? It has some nice paper inside. If you can see that, it has some coupons, some crinkle paper. That's a nice experience, right? It's pretty cool. It's an easy box to ship. They basically uh, goes in here and they put a label on the bottom and out it goes. It's more of a SIOC type e-commerce packaging direct to the consumer. It's pretty easy peasy. I mean, that's a nice box, right? With FitFab Fun, they actually change the size every time they ship, every month, or I give it every quarter, and then they actually change the design as well. So it's probably more of a digitally printed box versus a flexo printed from a corrugated manufacturer. So those are pretty cool. Uh, Another one that I always like, it's a cloud paper. I mean, if you've seen this or not, but it's a cloud. It's a base here in Seattle. It's more of it's a bamboo toilet paper, right? It's pretty cool, and I'll open it up. But it has a great unboxing experience as well. I should open this up before the call, but
It's
it is what
okay.
it is, right?
Let's do it. This is part of the experience that we are having now
Yeah,
live.
it's a real experience, man. Hey, but if you can see, they have a nice, and this is, a toilet paper, right? It doesn't have to be fantastic, but it has a nice tissue paper and a,
Uh-huh.
label inside, and everything is individually wrapped, which is, I think, pretty cool. It makes for a nice box. So, on the subscription side of the DTC is pretty important. A lot more people are getting more on board with that. I think that's the way to go. I mean, changing the packaging every month is very unique, and it kind of keeps the consumer interested, right?
Yeah, so okay. Now
Sorry.
basically we can have a big impact in a small business and big business, right? But for example, when you design a box like this one, to create that unboxing experience, most of the small business, um, have a lot of issues because the costing of shipping that size of the box is really high,
Yep.
you know so there is something that you think based on your experience that USPS, UPS, FedEx, or the Amazon or Walmart, they will find a way that you can standardize a, a couple of corrugate dimensions that you can reduce the shipping cost, or this is something that not yet is developed.
I don't think that's, yeah. I mean, USPS tries to do that, but in Amazon, they have their own sizes that they choose from when they send a box out. They have like 7 or 8 different sizes that they ship on. Uh, but the consumer, I guess we have to, help the consumer get to that point. But there's not a standardized, as you know, there's not a standardized
Mhm,
number yet. I mean, hopefully we
mhm.
get
Yeah, so this is great. Some ideas, that I'm being exploring is like, okay, let's get the standard cases that USP,
there.
FedEx,
Sure,
or UPS send, and just design something that can fit inside of those,
sure.
right? And then you can save the money there where you are designing. So this is something Packbrain here talking how to design an e-commerce packaging.
Yeah,
um,
getting there.
okay, so unboxing experience, but there is something interesting that you talked with me before the podcast is like protection over price reduction. A lot of people doing this or just a small amount of customers?
Well, well, it's a it's a fine line, right? They want more protection on things that might fail or break. Like if you look at those categories that are more fragile, but the consumer goods CPG, yeah, they want price reduction. They want to try to save money, but they also want sustainability. Those are the two big issues, right? They want to reduce their packaging and they want sustainability. So they want to get rid of the plastic inserts or have a more sustainable box. Corrugated is more likely 60% recyclable, was from recyclable materials in the first place, but they want it to be 100%, and that's a hard to uh, it's a hard get right now because recycled boards very high. It used to be online with recycled with virgin paper in the past, but it's not that anymore. So um, those are some issues that face consumers right now.
Okay, so because if you want, like we mentioned at the beginning, this conversation, if you want to be sure that your product will be delivered safe and the
Yep,
consumer will have the experience that you want, you need to put protection over price. If
exactly.
not, if not, you will not be able to be successful in the business.
Yeah, but as you know, you're a structural designer that you can add production and actually reduce the package's size and save them money and maybe a win-win situation in terms of reducing the package's size, increase the production protection, maybe keeping that price in line. And those are the things that come in line with a good packaging structural engineer can do. So you just have to look at and just take the time to make sure you do it right versus trying to do it quick.
Exactly. That is important, right? That you can reduce the free space inside of the package, depending on the product that you have. Not always a standard dimension will help you, depending on the product, right, that you
Sure.
provide.
Yep. Yep.
So it's really interesting that part. Before I move to the other topic that we have, let's talk about something that is still missing in the direct of consumer is about how what is the importance of the e-commerce aspect versus store aspect. In the e-commerce, I believe that you have better opportunity to interact directly in a private sense with the consumer versus in the store, right? You mentioned to me before the podcast that the small business that are just dedicated to online don't have to compete, with shelf space or those kind of stuff. How you see this in advantage? Like you see this like an advantage or disadvantage to big and small business? How you see this?
Well, if you look at the large companies like a Nestle or a P&G, those guys, they want to sell in volume, right? So their standard model has been to sell, through distribution, right? Sell to the grocery stores, Walmart. They want to sell in the Costco. They want to sell in pallet loads. So it's very hard for them to adjust to try to sell direct to consumer. I mean, if you look at the Tide box, the Tide Eco box, that's one foray that they tried to sell. One box, one at a time to consumer. That's really not in that's not really in the things they want, because it really disrupts their supply chain side of the business. They have to
Exactly.
dedicate a whole team to sell one at a time on e-commerce. So, but you look at the smaller box, smaller guy that are selling online, they can really disrupt the market. They can sell one at a time. They can reduce their costs. They're not, they want to sell, 5 or 10,000 versus 5 or 10 million, right? So their cost structure is totally different, and they compete head to head with these national brands because they can be really cool. They can have a really cool website, SEO campaign. They can do some stuff on LinkedIn, influencer kits, influencer campaigns that really make some of those, off brands really, really cool. Like Allbirds, if you've seen the Allbirds brand, they can compete directly with Nike. Amazon Essential is clothing is like the big thing where people buy cheap clothing, but there's some other cool brands like Silk Laundry or Outer Known, or God, you can go on and on and on and on. There's a million different brands out there that are really cool. They have really good stuff.
It's interesting what you mentioned because now that will drive me to go to the topic about e-commerce impact, right?
Sure.
And based on the information that you share, based on your experience and what the business is doing right now, there is a surge in demand about 5 to 10%, right, on this aspect. And we talk about this during the beginning of the podcast that now everybody want to get everything delivered to the house, right? You
Yep.
just want to go to online, click, click. And now, it's more the credit card aspect, it's more safe. There is a ton of payment methods, that you can use that don't necessarily you need to type a card number or those kind of stuff. So that is
Sure.
helping to the people create confidence, right? On this aspect. But something that I want to ask you about this aspect is, do you think that the e-commerce will drive to get more gain, in terms of money for example, company that you represent? Because if you see that the demand is going up, the offer is getting up also, but maybe you can gain more money because this innovated package will cost more, right? This is something that now you guys will start to get more money on this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, sure. Yeah. People are always looking for innovation, right? To add a light to a box, or adding innovation to the box can really disrupt the chain out there. I mean, yeah, that box prices have gone up 5 to 10%, but that means all the product costs have gone up as well. And so the the smaller brands especially have to really deal with that price increase. And how do they deal with it? They look at their packaging, they want to reduce the packaging costs. Well, it's hard to reduce the packaging costs when all the costs are going up, right? Poly's gone up, corrugate's gone up, so it's hard to do that unless you have a really good packaging engineer that can really help you design a box that, or a package that can reduce your footprint, is more sustainable and also less expensive. I mean, those are things that can be done. It just takes time. It's not going to happen in an hour. It takes a little while for a guy to figure that out. Because what we do is that we'll develop a package and we'll throw it on a drop machine or a vibration machine to make sure that's going to work, right? And then if it works, great, we'll do the package, we'll send it off to the guy. If not, we'll go back and tweak it, make sure it's a little stronger. So that's what we can do in one-stop shop versus trying to work with a manufacturer that has to go to testing facility and back and forth. So those are very key out there in the market right now.
Yeah, so basically manufacturer like your company that you represent will start to get more profit. uh, Companies need to, manufacturer of the consumer good need to increase the cost per unit to have this protective and be able to deliver and put graphics, night printing, all those kind of
Sure.
stuff. But depend on the volume, maybe the impact will be, I don't know, 3 cents or five
Yeah,
cents, right?
exactly.
That is depend the volume. But with the small company, like you mentioned, this will be something really competitive for them, really hard to achieve on time. So that is why you understand that the future for these small businesses will be on demand manufacturing.
Yep. The demand is only going to go higher.
Okay. So basically, big company, can produce a ton of product and they will just, like we mentioned now, will increase maybe 5 cents per unit. But the small businesses, what they need to focus now is and have a nice design of the package, be protective, but just ship one at a time, two at the time, depending on the demand of the people that are buying, right? So
Yep.
that is basically the recommendation from Erin to the consumer.
Yep. Sure.
Hmm,
Exactly.
interesting, because it's really hard to have inventory control with high freight plus a fancy package, But I believe that if you have a fancy package, innovative package, that will drive to have more sales.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. If you're dedicated to direct to consumer, I mean, is really you can reduce your costs, right? You're not selling through a 3PL, which is a third party logistics company. You're not selling to distribution where you're paying for shelf space. So you save money in freight. Production, you save money in production costs too, because your lower production per unit is probably going to be lower because you have less people to make your product. And then you can have a inventory control can be a lot better in terms of how you control your inventory. You don't have to have a gazillion different size pieces for each size. You can have limited amount. I mean, you can just spend the amount of money you need for each size. You don't need like 1,000 mediums and a million larges and a million smalls, right? You just have that nice quantities to ship out. So that's an advantage that's going to be for the DTC consumer moving forward until the national brands can figure that out. But as we mentioned, the national brands are I don't see them making a concerted effort to sell direct to consumer just because it's so hard for them to change.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
trying. They've tried. There's some opportunities out there. I mean, but it's gonna be hard for
Yeah, but anyway, this national brand has a lot of challenge with, for example, Kroger, Walmart, all those kind of company, because they are demanding on the shelf present something nice, easy to handle, and
exactly.
the retail ready packaging aspect. This is like an e-commerce,
Yep.
designs, because you need to develop a package that can deliver to the store and they quick can put it in the shelf. So this is almost like an e-commerce package because we create a consumer experience on the shelf.
Exactly, and that's yeah, they're doing a better job. They're really making the packaging look stand out on the shelf. The key is, can you use that same box and ship it on e-commerce? A lot of the times you can't. And so because you have to have more protection when you ship it online, but they can sure make it look very attractive when it's on there. Using silver foils, and look at the candy. If
Yeah.
you go down the candy aisle, like especially, right, it's all high gloss. Gold foil, really stuff that wants to pop off the shelf. The
But
stuff you want
anyway,
to use.
yes, but anyway, Erin, I had the opportunity when I was working in Hershey to participate in a tour on the Walmart distribution center in Pennsylvania,
Oh,
right?
fun.
And what took me a lot of impression for me, right, was like we put at Hershey, we put a lot of effort to create a nice palette pattern to take the product out from the facility to the DC, right? When we went there, Walmart has multiple stores, right? And but they have a small store that just require X amount of this product. And what they do is basically take from a pallet that have maybe 50 cases, they take 3 cases of those, put in this pallet. They take 4 cases from another pallet, put in the same pallet because going to that store. So that is also an e-commerce impact, because you are putting a package that was designed maybe for this stack, for this pallet pattern, and they are using the same product that you designed for this in a variety of product in one palette,
Sure.
so this is also impact. So that is why it's challenge also now for this national brand, to my understanding, and that is why it will be really important to take consideration the e-commerce thinking on those aspects as well, you know
Yep.
so it's
But
it's, it's what it is.
it's a big topic, and it's evolving all the time, right? You've seen it
Yeah.
evolves almost weekly. Somebody comes out with a really cool design or a box, or we're working on a box for a plant startup, where versus he was using a box, a regular RC, and now we're having a box where it opens like this, so they can see this product. I can send you a picture of that. It's pretty cool and pretty disruptive.
Yeah, and that is why, we back again with the topic that we start, which is the increase of ECT, the increase of the drop testing, all those kind of stuff, is really important. Okay, Erin,
Oh yeah.
before finish the podcast, what type of information you ask to your consumer, to your client, when they ask you to design an e-commerce package? I don't know, you ask them what type of product is the case, the box that you are looking for. What type of information you ask to them?
Yeah, we ask all those things, right? We ask what in the first process, for especially for a person that doesn't know what he wants, we ask him what the product is, how they want it packaged, what distribution channel they want to use, as well as sustainability. I mean, sustainability is always number one in my book in terms of how can I reduce the plastic in this existing package or the new product. So those are the things you have to look at, and then you got to think of costs, right? You have to design to that price point the guy wants to pay. So, you figure what 3 to 5% of the product cost is the cost of the packaging, right? So if something costs $100, your package cost can be within 3 to 5%, at $3 to $5, right? Or it can be a little more if it's a luxury item. But that's kind of what we look at. So a $10 item, your package cost can't be $1, right? It can't be 10%, but it can be 50 to 30 to 50 cents. That's kind of the range we look at. That's kind of the rule of thumb that I use. And then you can design around that, right? Can it fit in a corrugated box? Can you do a SBS box? Is it expensive enough to do a rigid box, right? Can you make it more luxury item? Those are more expensive boxes to do that, but those are the things that are very important. So we design around the product, we design around its price point, and then you design around that kind of that rule of thumb pricing point.
Yeah, this is really important and interesting, right, Erin? You can have a product that is made in China,
Yeah,
but if you put money, a lot of money, on a nice package design, that product will look better
Cool.
than
Yeah, well, it's sell like
than
crazy.
any. We sell like crazy. People will
Yeah.
not care if where the product was made. It's just the experience, the nice package, and this is something really nice in compare with the shelf, because that product that was made in China, you will see the product in the shelf without any package around, just the primary package, right? The
Right.
primary package or maybe the secondary package, depending on what type of product it is. But when you buy that product online and you receive it in your house, that unboxing experience is the one that will drive, oh, this is an awesome product. This is amazing. Let's buy more of this, right?
Yeah, give you cheap, but yeah,
Yeah. So that is
I
why
got it.
e-commerce
Cool.
is really important, for national brand and also for a small business that they are starting. Could be a teacher business,
Yeah,
and the unboxing experience will be great and will drive more sales to you.
yeah,
Erin,
sure.
this is awesome. I appreciate the time that you take to talk with me about this. Something that I will take as a overall of this is that more demanding on bags, right? Paper or
Yep,
poly bag.
yep,
Amazon is getting cut off because people, the corrugated manufacturer, want to gain money and they are taking all the business from them,
yep.
or from the other people. And the unboxing experience is really important, and that is why it's required to have this conversation about the best way that you can design a corrugated box or a bag, paper or poly, to satisfy your consumer and your product, correct?
Yeah, exactly right.
Perfect. Erin,
Awesome.
I really appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody that see the episode 2 of Today in Packaging podcast here in Pack Brain. Thank you, Erin.
Thanks, Wilberto. We'll talk later.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.